Good morning. As you're well aware, the last several months have impacted so many experiences for all of our students and our staff and our families. And throughout all of those things, we've had to adapt and recreate ourselves while keeping true to our traditions and culture. This whole beginning of this year, I'm very proud. We are very proud of all the things that our staff has put into place and our students have put into place to get reacclimated to school, get it reacclimated to school life. But the one thing that we're missing, a little bit of what we're missing, is that experience of school life. It's one thing that you can be with your friends in classes and lunch and kind of hang out and, you can watch games online. But what's difficult is all of the experiences. We know that everyone wants to go to football games. We know you want to go to your soccer games and volleyball and cross country and tennis and golf to see your friends. And it's really difficult with the experiences that we currently have with the restrictions. We wanted to take the time over the last several weeks to put together, within now being October, how can we create student leadership once again? You can certainly look at last March, we had a student council, we had some class officers, and their life kind of just paused. And then the summer came and we came into school. And now it's time to reinvent ourselves and recreate ourselves. And so for the last several weeks, I've been talking to several adults about how we can quickly get moving into creating our student council and also look at ways that we have our class officers, but also put them in the same umbrella. So, what we have created and what we're going to start to deploy this week so that you can begin the application process is something called an executive student council. Now, for about 13 years, I ran an executive student council, which then takes the old and the new of having your student council experience and your class officer experience and kind of puts them under the same umbrella. You see, over the last several years, it was really hard. I was just talking to a teacher about this, that I'd go up to a student and say, hey, as student council president, I need you to think about ways that we can do this. Oh, I'm not the student council president. I'm your class officer. And then I go over to the class officer and ask them the same question, like 3 months later, they're like, oh, that's for the student council. Well, that's not right. Student leaders are student leaders. And I wanted to put them under the same umbrella, all the while keeping some of the traditions of having some of our moderators that are there helping out with some specific events. So let me talk to you a little bit about Executive Student Council and then what it means for the application process. The first thing that I want to talk to you about is how the moderators work. The moderators for Executive Student Council are Carrie Karenke and Mr. Dan Chenoweth. They're the ones that are both from senior all the way down to 8th grade. They take care of all things student council. So all the things that they've done in the past, they're going to continue to do so, but they're going to have an arsenal of students at their fingertips. They will have the opportunity to have class presidents, class officers, and members at large for each grade level to support the needs of what the student council has, and also be able to transition over for specific events with other moderators. So the way it works is that we are going to elect a class president at each grade level, and then we're also going to elect class officers and also members at large. But the process is going to be a little bit different. And I'll go into that in a few moments. But as you can see in this flow chart, nothing really has changed between what student council has done in the past with school leadership, homecoming elections, activities, and then what they have done with going over to an advisor. So Mrs. Tekovec has for years been our senior class advisor, and she always helps out and helps the students facilitate baccalaureate, graduation, the graduation address, senior picnic, and other end of the year events. Well, she's still going to do that. However, she's going to be able to have a large arsenal of students at her fingertips, not just her class officers that she would have had in the past. We are going to have one class president for the senior class, not two, not a class officer president and a student council president. We're going to have one president for each class that has multiple officers. You might say, what's an officer? Well, in the past, that's your vice president, that's your secretary, that's your treasurer. But because those roles intermingle, they're going to be called class officers. In the lieu of missing a president, a class officer will take that role and act as president. And then there's members at large. Members at large are the ones that certainly are like, hey, I want to help out. I'll do what I can, but there's only so much I can do because I'm so involved in other things. But you're a part of an executive student council. You might not just have as much of the leadership and responsibilities. So this goes on for each grade level: junior class president, junior class officers, members at large. We were going to elect those people. And then when it comes throughout the course of the year, they'll be able to participate in all the school leadership and culture building, the homecoming, the additional dances that were put on, and all activities and experiences. And then when it comes time for prom, they're going to go over and work with Mrs. Mahalik, who's going to help expedite, as she's been doing for years, the prom experience. So as it keeps on going down to each of these grade levels, you have sophomore class and then freshman class, eighth grade class, all of those that are identified in the black kind of line of demarcation. The moderators are Mrs. Karenke and Mr. Chenoweth, and they will meet when their scheduled meetings. All of those grade levels will meet, and they will be all able to hear the same message, have the same experience, and our senior class officers and president will run those meetings, and it'll be great leadership models for everyone else. So what does it mean for the whole process? So when you look at this whole process, it's all about leadership. So students interested in the Executive Student Council are going to fill out an online application. You'll see it right there. Fill it out completely. Follow each step line by line. The difference is the presidents and all officers are going to be interviewed by the Executive Student Council moderators and advisors, an administrator and or a counselor, and they will have panel interview questions. Those people are going to have a rubric, and those rubrics are going to identify the student's strengths and weaknesses within that category of student leadership, and there's going to be a score that the panel has that is a part of the election process. Members at large will not be interviewed. They apply and they can be elected by popular vote. Now, the Executive Student Council, the panel will have 40% of the electoral vote because you're going in for an interview. Like when I went in for an interview for this position, I had 3 rounds of interviews. I had a panel that had to determine if I was considered, but later on I had an assistant superintendent and a superintendent that had to say, yep, that's the one. We're trying to put this into more of a leadership experience. You apply for a job, you apply for this, you have an interview, you are asked questions. The staff have a vote. The staff gets to put into looking at your resume or looking at your application and also being able to vote on 20% of the electoral vote. And then the students of each grade level will vote with all the names that are listed for president and officers, and they will have 40% of the vote. So it's a 40-40-20 vote. The total will equal who is president, who are class officers, and also members at large for each grade level. So the thing about this is that there's going to be a process. So the first thing that you need to know, and you are going to receive this document, so I don't have to read it to you, is that today is October 7th, and in 1 week, all of the applications are due. This gives you the time to go through it, look at ways that you can showcase yourself both on words, but also you are going to affix a picture so that we can display who's running for each of these candidacies. On Thursday, October 15th, we will, as the Executive Student Council panel, interview the senior president candidates and the executive officers. That will be a panel interview, and at the end of each of them, I will be recording your speeches for the class president and class officers. The next day, juniors, on October 16th, the junior class experience, we are going to have your interviews. We will record your speeches. The following week, we will get through all 10th, 9th, and 8th grade presidential candidates and also officers who will have their interview, along with having their speeches recorded. I will then take all of the interviews, put them into a kind of a brief short movie. Each speech will be less than basically 30 seconds. and then I will send it to every student and staff's Gmail account via um, a video file. That day, on Tuesday, October 20th, we're going to have our faculty begin their voting. And the following day, on the 21st, we are going to have grade level voting. From there, we will take the 40% of the panel vote, 40% of the student body vote, and 20% of the staff vote, and come up with our candidates who will be our executive student council officers and presidents for the class of 2021. And then shortly thereafter, we will have our first executive council meeting. And the first task of this executive student council is to begin planning the 2020 homecoming court process. Obviously, we had a very unique football season. We played 2 of our 3 games immediately off the bat at home. And then we did not have enough time to put all this together for the following week, which after we had a bye, we are a week away, we had another home game, and then we had games away. We didn't have time to build this in that period of time. We do have the time now. The goal is to be able to have our homecoming court in the next several weeks, be able to record the things that they need to do so they can have their votes. And then as for the dance, well, we have to hold on to that until a later date once restrictions can soften. No determination has occurred when that dance will occur. The goal is it will occur, but even if at the point that we have to restrict some things, we might have to be very mindful to make it more of a junior-senior experience. But that has not been determined at this time. Again, this screencast certainly is to help you understand a little bit more about what it takes to run and understand Executive Student Council for the 2021 school year. Have a great day.